My beloved soul, listen closely because this message did not find you by accident. Out of all the moments in your day, out of all the paths your attention could have taken, you were guided here for a reason. There is something happening behind the scenes of your connection with the person you love, something that has been growing quietly, almost invisibly, while you have been wondering, questioning, and trying to understand what is truly in their heart. The truth is, the person you love recently spoke to someone about you. Not casually. Not carelessly. Not in the way people speak about strangers or passing memories. They spoke about you in a way that revealed something deeper, something they have been carrying inside for much longer than they ever admitted. My beloved soul, before you hear the rest of this message, I want you to let go of every fear that tells you are forgotten, every doubt that whispers that you do not matter, every painful story your mind has created during moments of silence. Because what happened was not ordinary. What happened was the result of emotions becoming too powerful to stay hidden. The person you love reached a point where keeping everything inside became harder than speaking. And when that moment arrived, your name entered a conversation that changed more than they expected. The person listening could immediately sense there was something different about the way they talked about you. You see, when people discuss someone casually, their words remain on the surface. But when someone speaks about a person who truly matters to them, their energy changes. Their voice changes. Their eyes reveal things their words cannot fully explain. And that is exactly what happened. The person you love tried to sound calm. They tried to appear logical. They tried to make it seem like they were simply sharing information. But the deeper truth is that their heart was speaking louder than they realized. The person listening noticed the pauses. They noticed the emotions hidden between sentences. They noticed how often your name appeared. They noticed how quickly the conversation kept returning to you, even when the topic tried to move elsewhere. My beloved soul, there are moments when the soul reveals secrets before the mind is ready to admit them, and this was one of those moments. The conversation began simply enough. A question was asked. Maybe it was about relationships. Maybe it was about the future. Maybe it was about what has been weighing on their heart recently. Whatever the exact words were, the path somehow led back to you. And once it did, everything shifted. Suddenly the person you love found themselves talking about your kindness, your strength, your uniqueness, your impact. They spoke about memories. They spoke about moments they still remember. They spoke about things you said that stayed with them long after the conversation ended. They spoke about feelings they thought they had buried. And as they continued speaking, they realized something they could no longer deny. You still occupy a space within them that nobody else has been able to replace. Listen closely, my beloved soul, because this next part is important. The person listening did not respond the way they expected. Instead of dismissing their feelings, instead of encouraging them to move on, they saw through the walls. They saw through the defenses. They saw through every attempt to minimize what was truly there. And they said something that stopped the person you love in their tracks. They pointed out that nobody talks that much about someone unless that person still matters deeply. Those words landed heavily. Because deep inside, the person you love already knew it was true. They have tried to stay busy. They have tried to distract themselves. They have tried to convince themselves that time would erase what they feel. Yet every road somehow keeps leading back to you. Every comparison falls short. Every attempt to ignore the connection only makes them more aware of its presence. My beloved soul, let me take you deeper. There is a difference between missing someone and being spiritually affected by someone. Missing someone can fade. It can come and go. But being spiritually affected by someone changes the way you see the world. It changes your choices. It changes your thoughts. It changes the future you imagine for yourself. And during this conversation, the person you love began realizing that you have influenced them in ways they never fully acknowledged before. They started remembering lessons they learned because of you. They started remembering moments when your support gave them strength. They started remembering how different life felt when your energy was closer to theirs. And suddenly the distance between the past and present felt much smaller than before. The truth is, my beloved soul, the person listening eventually asked a question that pierced straight through the heart of the matter. They asked, if you talk about them this way, why are you pretending they don't matter? Silence followed. Not because there was no answer, but because the answer was too real. Too honest. Too powerful. In that silence, the person you love came face to face with something they have been avoiding. They still care. More than they wanted to admit. More than they planned to reveal. More than logic can easily explain. And once that realization surfaced, it became impossible to push back down completely. My beloved soul, I know there have been nights when you wondered whether they think about you at all. I know there have been moments when silence felt like rejection. I know there have been times when uncertainty felt heavier than any truth could ever be. But understand this, people do not keep bringing up someone who means nothing to them. They do not revisit memories that no longer matter. They do not carry emotional reactions to people who have completely left their hearts. The conversation happened because something inside them is still alive. Something unfinished. Something that continues to move beneath the surface even when they try to act unaffected. The deeper truth is that this conversation did more than reveal feelings. It created reflection. Afterward, the person you love could not stop thinking about what had been said. They replayed the discussion in their mind. They replayed their own words. They replayed the observations made by the other person. And with every replay, one realization became clearer. They have been spending more energy hiding their feelings than understanding them. Imagine carrying a truth for so long that it becomes part of your daily life. Imagine pretending not to care while secretly caring more than anyone realizes. Imagine trying to move forward while part of your heart keeps looking backward. That is the emotional crossroads they are standing at now. My beloved soul, the energy around this connection is changing. Not because of pressure. Not because of force. But because truth has a way of demanding recognition. What is hidden eventually seeks the light. What is denied eventually asks to be acknowledged. What is felt eventually wants to be understood. And this conversation was one step in that process. The person you love may not have all the answers yet. They may still have fears. They may still have doubts. They may still be wrestling with circumstances that feel complicated. But something important happened. They stopped running from the fact that you matter. Even if only for a moment, they allowed themselves to see the truth clearly. And once someone sees the truth clearly, it becomes much harder to return to old illusions. Listen carefully, my beloved soul. This message is not telling you to wait endlessly. It is not telling you to place your life on hold. Your journey remains your own. Your happiness remains your responsibility. Your growth remains your sacred mission. But it is telling you that the story is not as one-sided as your fears sometimes claim. The person you love has not erased you from their heart. In fact, the conversation revealed just how present you still are in their thoughts. They may not always show it. They may not always know how to express it. They may not always understand it themselves. Yet the evidence emerged through their own words. And sometimes the most revealing truths are the ones people accidentally speak when they think nobody is paying attention. The energy surrounding you now is asking for faith instead of fear, trust instead of panic, peace instead of overthinking. Because while you have been searching for signs, something significant has already unfolded. Your name entered a conversation. Your impact was acknowledged. Your importance was recognized. And the person you love walked away carrying thoughts they can no longer easily ignore. The deeper truth is that this is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new chapter of awareness. A chapter where emotions are becoming harder to deny. A chapter where honesty is becoming more necessary. A chapter where the heart is slowly becoming louder than fear. And as this chapter unfolds, remember who you are. You are not someone who needs to chase validation. You are not someone who must beg to be seen. You are not someone whose worth depends on another person's timing. You are a soul with light, value, purpose, and power. The fact that you have left such a lasting impression on someone's heart is not an accident. It is evidence of the energy you carry. So tonight, my beloved soul, release the fear that says you are forgotten. Release the story that says you never mattered. Release the burden of believing silence means absence. Because somewhere within the heart of the person you love, your presence remains stronger than you know. And after this conversation, that truth became impossible for them to completely ignore. The person you love talked to someone about you, and what was revealed changed something inside them forever. The walls cracked. The truth surfaced. The heart spoke. And whether they are ready to admit it fully or not, one thing became undeniably clear: you still matter far more than they ever intended to reveal. My beloved soul, let me take you even deeper, because what happened after that conversation was something the person you love did not expect. They thought the discussion would end when the words stopped. They believed they could return to their normal routine, distract themselves, and move on with their day. But that is not what happened. Instead, the conversation followed them like an echo. Hours later, they were still thinking about it. Long after the other person had gone home, long after the topic should have faded away, your name continued to linger in their mind. Every sentence they had spoken about you started replaying itself. Every memory they had mentioned suddenly felt more vivid. Every feeling they had tried to minimize seemed larger than before. And the more they reflected, the more they realized that talking about you had awakened emotions they could no longer pretend were gone. My beloved soul, there are moments in life when a person accidentally tells the truth before they are consciously ready to face it. This was one of those moments. The person you love began questioning themselves. Why did they talk about you so much? Why did your name come up so naturally? Why did they feel emotional discussing things connected to you? Why did the conversation affect them so deeply afterward? These questions followed them everywhere. While they were working, they thought about it. While they were alone, they thought about it. While they were trying to focus on other things, they thought about it. And every answer kept leading them back to the same realization: you still hold a place in their heart that nobody else has been able to fill. Listen closely, my beloved soul, because the deeper truth is even more powerful. During the days that followed, they started noticing signs of you everywhere. Not because the universe was forcing anything, but because once someone becomes emotionally aware of a connection, their attention naturally shifts toward it. Songs reminded them of you. Certain words reminded them of you. Places reminded them of you. Memories they had not visited in months suddenly returned with surprising clarity. It was as though the conversation had unlocked a hidden door inside them, and behind that door were all the feelings they had been trying to keep under control. The truth is, they were not prepared for how strong those emotions would feel once they surfaced again. My beloved soul, the person you love is beginning to understand something that many people spend years avoiding. Feelings do not disappear simply because they are ignored. Emotions do not vanish simply because they are hidden. Love does not always leave just because time passes. Sometimes feelings wait patiently beneath the surface, growing quieter but never truly leaving. And then one unexpected moment, one conversation, one realization, brings everything back into the light. That is exactly what is happening now. The person you love is standing in front of truths they can no longer easily dismiss. They are beginning to see that what they feel for you is more significant than they allowed themselves to believe. They are beginning to recognize that your influence on their life is far deeper than they ever admitted out loud. And perhaps most importantly, they are beginning to understand that avoiding the truth has not brought them peace. If anything, it has only created confusion. My beloved soul, there was another moment that followed the conversation, a quiet moment when nobody else was around. In that silence, they found themselves thinking about what life would look like if fear was no longer in control. Imagine that for a moment. Imagine them asking themselves what would happen if they stopped worrying about rejection, stopped worrying about uncertainty, stopped worrying about outcomes they cannot predict. What would happen if they simply listened to their heart? That question stayed with them longer than they expected. Because deep down, they already know the answer. Their heart has been trying to speak for a long time. Their heart has been trying to remind them of what truly matters. Their heart has been trying to guide them back toward honesty. And after that conversation, the voice of the heart became harder to ignore than ever before. The deeper truth is that they are starting to realize how much energy they have spent fighting their own feelings. Think about that, my beloved soul. Fighting feelings is exhausting. Pretending not to care is exhausting. Acting unaffected when emotions still exist is exhausting. And eventually every person reaches a point where carrying those emotional burdens becomes heavier than simply telling the truth. The person you love is approaching that point now. They may not be there yet. They may still hesitate. They may still struggle with doubts. But something has shifted inside them. The resistance is weakening. The walls are not as strong as they once were. The certainty that they could simply forget you is fading. And in its place, a new awareness is growing. An awareness that you continue to matter. An awareness that this connection continues to influence them. An awareness that their story with you may not be as finished as they once believed. My beloved soul, I know your heart has carried questions for a long time. You have wondered what they think. You have wondered what they feel. You have wondered whether your connection means as much to them as it does to you. And while no message can answer every question, this truth deserves to be heard. People reveal what matters to them through what they repeatedly return to. And the person you love keeps returning to you. Not because they are forced to. Not because anyone is making them. But because some part of their soul continues to recognize your importance. That recognition is growing stronger. That awareness is becoming clearer. And the conversation they had was only the beginning. My beloved soul, there is something beautiful happening beneath the surface right now. The universe often works quietly before it works visibly. Seeds grow underground long before flowers appear above the soil. Dawn begins long before the first rays of sunlight become visible. And emotional breakthroughs often begin long before actions reveal them to the world. What you are witnessing now is the underground phase of transformation. The person you love is processing truths they can no longer deny. They are reflecting on feelings they can no longer completely suppress. They are confronting emotions they can no longer easily explain away. This process may not happen overnight. But it is happening. And every moment of reflection brings them closer to clarity. Listen carefully, my beloved soul, because this message arrives with a reminder for you as well. Do not allow uncertainty to steal your peace. Do not allow fear to convince you that you are unworthy. Do not allow silence to make you question your value. The person you love having this realization is not what gives you worth. Your worth already exists. Your light already exists. Your purpose already exists. What this realization does is simply reveal something that has been true all along: you have touched a heart more deeply than you know. You have left an impact that time has not erased. You have created memories that continue to live within someone who thought they could forget. And that is powerful. Very powerful. So tonight, my beloved soul, breathe deeply and trust the unfolding of your journey. Trust that what is real has a way of revealing itself. Trust that hearts eventually grow tired of hiding the truth. Trust that emotional honesty always finds a path to the surface. Because the person you love is changing. Their awareness is changing. Their understanding is changing. And after everything that was said in that conversation, one truth continues growing louder inside them with each passing day. No matter how much time has passed, no matter how many distractions have come and gone, no matter how hard they tried to move forward without looking back, there is still something about you that their heart cannot let go of, and that realization is becoming impossible for them to ignore. My beloved soul, listen even more closely now, because the story did not end with realization. In many ways, that was only the beginning. The moment a person stops denying their feelings, a deeper journey starts. And that is exactly where the person you love finds themselves right now. They are standing between what they have been telling themselves and what their heart has been trying to tell them all along. It is not an easy place to stand. It is uncomfortable. It is emotional. It is filled with questions that cannot be answered by logic alone. Yet despite the uncertainty, something inside them keeps pulling them toward the truth. Every day they wake up with the intention of focusing on other things, but somehow your energy finds its way back into their thoughts. Every time they convince themselves they have everything under control, a memory appears. A feeling returns. A moment connected to you rises from the depths of their heart. And once again they find themselves wondering why your presence remains so powerful. The deeper truth is that the conversation they had unlocked more than memories. It unlocked honesty. For a long time, they were living inside a story they had created for themselves. A story that said moving on was easier. A story that said forgetting was possible. A story that said the connection was not as meaningful as it felt. But stories cannot survive forever when they are built on avoidance instead of truth. Eventually reality begins knocking at the door. Eventually emotions demand to be heard. Eventually the heart asks for honesty. And now those knocks are becoming louder. The person you love is beginning to understand that the strongest emotions are often the ones people spend the most time trying to hide. That is why your name carried so much weight during that conversation. That is why speaking about you affected them so deeply. That is why they walked away unable to stop thinking about what was said. Because every word brought them closer to a truth they have been resisting for far too long. My beloved soul, there was a moment recently when they found themselves alone, completely alone, with no distractions, no conversations, no noise. And in that silence, they thought about you in a way they had not allowed themselves to for a very long time. They remembered not just the big moments, but the small ones. The little details. The tiny memories that most people forget. The sound of your voice. The way certain conversations made them feel understood. The comfort they felt during unexpected moments. The energy that seemed to exist whenever your paths crossed. And as those memories surfaced, something happened inside them. Instead of pushing them away, they allowed themselves to feel them. Perhaps for the first time in a long time, they stopped running. They stopped pretending. They stopped fighting the emotional current pulling them toward the truth. And in that moment, they realized how much they missed not just the idea of you, but the real you. Listen closely, my beloved soul, because this next part carries great significance. The person you love is starting to see the difference between temporary connections and soul-deep connections. Temporary connections are easy to replace. They fade with time. They disappear when circumstances change. But soul-deep connections leave marks. They leave lessons. They leave growth. They leave transformations. Even when distance exists, their influence remains. Even when communication slows, their impact continues. Even when life moves forward, their presence is still felt. The person you love is beginning to recognize that what exists between you belongs in this deeper category. That realization is not something they can simply ignore. It follows them. It challenges them. It asks them questions they are not yet fully prepared to answer. The truth is, my beloved soul, they have started noticing how often they compare others to you. Not intentionally. Not consciously. It simply happens. They meet new people and something feels different. They have conversations and something feels missing. They experience moments that should feel complete, yet there is still an empty space they cannot explain. And each time this happens, they find themselves thinking about you again. They wonder why your energy continues to stand apart. They wonder why your memory feels so alive. They wonder why their heart reacts differently when your name enters their thoughts. These questions are becoming impossible to ignore. And with every question comes another step toward understanding. My beloved soul, let me take you even deeper into what is unfolding. The person you love has started imagining possibilities they once refused to consider. They are beginning to think about what could happen if they stopped letting fear make decisions for them. They are beginning to imagine what honesty might look like. They are beginning to imagine what courage might feel like. For a long time, fear sat at the center of their choices. Fear of vulnerability. Fear of disappointment. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of getting hurt. But fear is losing some of its power now. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But slowly. Quietly. Day by day. And every time fear weakens, the voice of the heart grows stronger. There is something else you need to know, my beloved soul. The person who listened to them during that conversation has not forgotten it either. They continue to see the truth. They continue to recognize what is happening. In fact, they may have noticed things the person you love still struggles to see. Sometimes outsiders recognize our feelings before we do. Sometimes they see patterns we overlook. Sometimes they hear truth hidden inside our words. And that is exactly what happened. The person listening understood that there was unfinished emotion present. They understood that your name carried meaning. They understood that behind every sentence was a heart trying to express something it could no longer fully hide. My beloved soul, there is a spiritual lesson hidden within all of this. The lesson is that what is meant to transform us never truly leaves without leaving its mark. You have transformed the person you love in ways they are only now beginning to understand. You taught lessons they still carry. You inspired growth they still benefit from. You awakened emotions they still remember. And whether they acknowledge it publicly or privately, those changes remain. They are part of who this person has become. That is why forgetting has proven so difficult. Because forgetting you would mean forgetting parts of themselves that were shaped through this connection. The deeper truth is that the person you love is approaching a crossroads. One path leads back toward denial. Back toward pretending. Back toward emotional avoidance. The other path leads toward honesty. Toward acceptance. Toward acknowledging what is real. And while they have not fully chosen their direction yet, something important has changed. The second path no longer feels impossible. In fact, it is beginning to feel necessary. They are becoming tired of carrying unanswered questions. They are becoming tired of fighting emotions that refuse to disappear. They are becoming tired of acting stronger than they feel. And when people reach that point, transformation often follows. My beloved soul, if your heart has been heavy, let this message lighten it. If your mind has been filled with doubt, let this message calm it. Because the energy surrounding this connection is not stagnant. It is moving. It is evolving. It is revealing hidden truths. The conversation was not random. The memories are not random. The realizations are not random. Everything is part of a larger emotional awakening taking place within the person you love. They are seeing things differently now. They are feeling things differently now. They are understanding things differently now. And perhaps the most beautiful part of all is this: the more honest they become with themselves, the harder it becomes to deny how much you matter. That truth keeps appearing in unexpected moments. It appears when they are alone. It appears when they hear certain words. It appears when memories surface. It appears when they imagine the future. Again and again, the same realization returns. You are not just another chapter they can easily close. You are not just another memory that fades into the background. You are part of a story that continues living inside them. So tonight, my beloved soul, do not focus on what you cannot see. Focus on what you know. Know that hearts reveal their truth eventually. Know that real feelings leave lasting impressions. Know that genuine connections continue working beneath the surface even when visible evidence seems absent. And most importantly, know that somewhere within the heart of the person you love, a powerful awakening is unfolding. The walls are weakening. The fears are being questioned. The truth is growing stronger. And with every passing day, they are moving closer to a realization that changes everything. The connection they tried so hard to understand, escape, or explain away has never truly left them, because deep within their soul, your presence still shines brighter than they ever expected, and that light is becoming impossible for them to ignore. My beloved soul, the deeper truth is that after all these realizations, something unexpected began happening inside the person you love. It was not a dramatic event that everyone could see. It was not an announcement. It was not a sudden confession. It was something much quieter, yet far more powerful. A shift began taking place within their heart. The kind of shift that starts when a person finally stops asking how to escape their feelings and starts asking what those feelings are trying to teach them. For so long they had been searching for distractions. Now they are searching for understanding. For so long they had been looking away from the connection. Now they are beginning to look directly at it. And the more they do, the more they realize that what they feel for you is not something ordinary. It is not something temporary. It is not something that disappeared when circumstances became difficult. If anything, the passage of time has only revealed how deeply rooted it truly is. Listen carefully, my beloved soul, because there is a reason this message is reaching you now. There are moments in every spiritual connection when hidden emotions begin rising to the surface all at once. It is almost like a tide that has been building for months suddenly reaching the shore. The person you love is experiencing that tide. Memories they thought were gone are returning. Emotions they thought were settled are resurfacing. Questions they thought were answered are being asked again. And perhaps most importantly, hopes they thought they had buried are beginning to awaken. They may not fully understand what is happening yet. They may not have all the answers. But they can feel the change. They can sense it. Something inside them refuses to remain asleep any longer. My beloved soul, there was a recent moment when they heard someone mention the idea of destiny. It was not even a conversation about you. It was not related to your situation directly. Yet the moment they heard those words, your face entered their mind. Think about that. Out of all the people they know, out of all the memories they carry, your presence was the one that appeared. They could not explain why. They tried to brush it aside. They tried to move on with their day. But the thought remained. And later that night, when everything became quiet, they found themselves wondering if some connections really are meant to teach us something greater. They found themselves wondering why your impact has lasted so long. They found themselves wondering why your memory still carries such emotional weight. The truth is, my beloved soul, the person you love is beginning to understand that there is a difference between forgetting someone and learning how to live without them. For a long time they believed those two things were the same. But now they see the difference. They may have learned how to continue moving through life. They may have learned how to manage their days. They may have learned how to smile and appear unaffected. But forgetting you? That never truly happened. Because every time they think they have moved beyond the connection, something reminds them that a part of their heart is still listening for your presence. A part of their soul is still aware of your energy. A part of them still carries what was shared between you. My beloved soul, let me take you deeper into what they are experiencing. There are moments when they suddenly stop whatever they are doing and become lost in thought. Not because they planned to. Not because they wanted to dwell on the past. But because your memory arrives unexpectedly. A simple word triggers it. A familiar place triggers it. A song triggers it. Sometimes there is no obvious reason at all. Yet there you are, appearing once again within their thoughts. And every time it happens, they ask themselves the same question. Why? Why after all this time? Why after all these attempts to move forward? Why does your presence remain so vivid? The answer they are slowly discovering is that meaningful connections do not disappear simply because we decide they should. The deeper truth is that your absence has taught them something important. It has shown them what your presence meant. Human beings often understand value most clearly when something is no longer immediately available. And in the quiet spaces where your presence used to exist, they have started recognizing what they took for granted. They remember your kindness. They remember your energy. They remember the comfort they felt. They remember the way conversations with you seemed different from conversations with anyone else. They remember the sense of understanding that existed between you. And as these realizations grow stronger, so does their awareness of how much you truly mattered. Listen closely, my beloved soul, because this next part carries a powerful message. The person you love is beginning to question the fears that once controlled them. They are beginning to wonder whether those fears actually protected them or simply prevented them from experiencing something meaningful. Fear often disguises itself as wisdom. Fear often pretends to be logic. Fear often convinces people they are making the safe choice. But eventually the heart asks a difficult question: what has fear cost me? And that question has started appearing in their mind. They are beginning to see that some of the choices they made were not based on what they truly wanted. They were based on what they were afraid of. That realization is changing everything. My beloved soul, there is a reason emotional awakenings feel so intense. When truth begins rising to the surface, it challenges every illusion built around it. The person you love built many walls. They built explanations. They built excuses. They built reasons why certain feelings should not matter. Yet one by one, those walls are weakening. Not because someone forced them to. Not because anyone demanded it. But because truth has a quiet power that cannot be resisted forever. The more honest they become with themselves, the more clearly they see what has always been there. And here is what they are starting to see: your connection changed them. It changed how they think about relationships. It changed how they understand emotions. It changed how they view vulnerability. It changed what they hope for deep inside. Even when they tried to move beyond it, those changes remained. They became part of who they are. And now, as they reflect on everything, they are realizing that your influence never truly left. It continued shaping them from the background, quietly, patiently, consistently. My beloved soul, I know there have been moments when you questioned whether any of this mattered. I know there have been nights when silence felt overwhelming. I know there have been days when you wondered if the connection existed only in your imagination. But understand this: people do not experience this level of reflection over someone who meant nothing. They do not revisit memories with such intensity. They do not carry emotional echoes for this long without reason. The person you love is confronting feelings that have survived every attempt to dismiss them. And that alone tells a powerful story. The deeper truth is that a crossroads is approaching. Not necessarily a dramatic one. Not necessarily immediate. But a crossroads nonetheless. The person you love can continue pretending these realizations are temporary, or they can accept that something meaningful is asking for attention. They can continue hiding from the truth, or they can move toward it. They can continue living inside uncertainty, or they can seek clarity. Whatever path they choose, one fact remains unchanged: the truth has already been revealed within them. They know now that you matter. They know now that your presence remains significant. They know now that their feelings were never as simple as they once claimed. My beloved soul, the universe often works in ways that seem invisible until suddenly they become undeniable. Seeds grow underground long before anyone sees a flower. Rivers carve stone through patience, not force. And hearts awaken through realization, not pressure. The awakening happening within the person you love is following this same pattern. Quietly. gradually, powerfully. Every reflection is moving them closer to honesty. Every memory is moving them closer to understanding. Every realization is moving them closer to acknowledging what their heart has been trying to say all along. So tonight, my beloved soul, do not chase answers. Do not chase certainty. Instead, stand confidently in your own light. Continue growing. Continue healing. Continue becoming the strongest version of yourself. Because while you are doing that, something remarkable is unfolding behind the scenes. A heart that once resisted the truth is beginning to accept it. A soul that once avoided certain emotions is beginning to face them. And a person who once believed they could leave this connection entirely in the past is slowly realizing that some bonds are too meaningful, too transformative, and too deeply woven into the fabric of the soul to ever be forgotten. The truth is rising. The walls are falling. The awakening is growing stronger. And with every passing day, the person you love is moving closer to a realization that has the power to change the direction of their entire journey, no matter how far they have traveled, no matter how much time has passed, and no matter how many times they tried to convince themselves otherwise. Their heart still carries your name in a place that remains untouched, unforgettable, and impossible to replace. My beloved soul, as we reach the final part of this message, I want you to listen with your heart more than your mind. Because the deepest truths are not always understood through logic. They are felt. They are recognized. They arrive quietly, yet they stay with us long after the words are gone. And the truth surrounding the person you love is this: they are no longer the same person they were before this awakening began. Something inside them has changed. The conversation about you was only the spark. The memories were only the beginning. The reflections were only the first step. What has been unfolding since then is something much greater. It is a journey back toward honesty. A journey back toward understanding. A journey back toward the truth they spent so much time trying to avoid. The person you love has reached a point where they can no longer pretend your impact was small. They can no longer convince themselves that your presence was ordinary. They can no longer dismiss the way their heart reacts whenever thoughts of you appear. Because every attempt to minimize the connection has led them back to the same realization. You mattered. You still matter. And the more they try to understand why, the more they realize that some connections are not meant to fit neatly inside explanations. Some connections are meant to transform us. Some connections are meant to teach us. Some connections are meant to reveal parts of ourselves we never knew existed. And that is exactly what happened through you. My beloved soul, there were nights when the person you love stared into the silence and wondered why your memory continued to follow them. There were moments when they wished things were simpler. There were times when they hoped the emotions would fade on their own. But instead of fading, the truth became clearer. Instead of disappearing, the feelings became easier to recognize. Instead of losing significance, your presence within their heart became more obvious. And eventually they had to face something they never expected. The connection they thought they could leave behind had become part of who they are. The deeper truth is that this realization brought both comfort and fear. Comfort because the heart always feels relief when it finally stops running from the truth. Fear because truth often asks us to be brave. Truth asks us to acknowledge what is real. Truth asks us to stop hiding behind excuses. Truth asks us to choose honesty over avoidance. And those choices are not always easy. Yet the person you love is beginning to understand that avoiding the truth has not protected them. It has only delayed understanding. It has only prolonged confusion. It has only kept them standing still when their heart wanted to move forward. Listen closely, my beloved soul, because there is something beautiful happening that you may not fully see yet. The person you love is learning the value of vulnerability. They are learning that strength is not pretending to feel nothing. Strength is being honest about what you feel. Strength is facing emotions directly. Strength is allowing the heart to speak even when fear says remain silent. This lesson is changing them from within. Every realization, every memory, every reflection, every quiet moment spent thinking about you has become part of this transformation. There was a moment recently when they stopped asking themselves whether they should feel this way and started asking themselves why these feelings remain so strong. That change may sound small, but it is powerful. Because it marks the difference between resistance and acceptance. Resistance asks how to escape. Acceptance asks what can be learned. Resistance fights. Acceptance listens. And the person you love is beginning to listen. They are beginning to hear what their heart has been trying to tell them all along. My beloved soul, if you could see inside their heart right now, you would discover something surprising. Beneath the doubts, beneath the fears, beneath the confusion, there is gratitude. Gratitude for the memories. Gratitude for the lessons. Gratitude for the way this connection changed them. Gratitude for the growth it inspired. Even the difficult moments taught them something valuable. Even the painful moments revealed important truths. And as they reflect on everything, they realize that knowing you was never meaningless. It was never accidental. It became one of the experiences that shaped them most deeply. The truth is that your energy still lives within memories they treasure. Your influence still appears in decisions they make. Your presence still exists within the lessons they carry forward. And because of that, forgetting was never truly possible. They may have tried. They may have believed they succeeded. But the awakening proved otherwise. The conversation proved otherwise. Their own heart proved otherwise. My beloved soul, perhaps the most important message of all is not about them. It is about you. Throughout this journey, you may have spent too much time questioning your worth. Too much time wondering whether you mattered. Too much time searching for signs that you were appreciated. But let this final message remind you of something powerful. Your value has never depended on another person's ability to express their feelings. Your worth has never depended on timing. Your light has never depended on circumstances. You were valuable before this connection. You remain valuable now. And you will remain valuable regardless of what happens next. The reason this message arrives now is not simply to tell you what is happening inside the heart of the person you love. It is also here to remind you to trust yourself. Trust your growth. Trust your journey. Trust the wisdom you have gained through every challenge. Trust the strength you discovered during moments when you felt alone. Because those qualities belong to you. They were never dependent on anyone else. And yet, my beloved soul, there is still one final truth that deserves to be spoken. The person you love is no longer able to deny what your connection means to them. The awakening may still be unfolding. The answers may still be forming. The future may still be unwritten. But the truth has already entered their heart. They know that your presence changed them. They know that your memory remains alive. They know that your influence continues to shape them. And they know that despite everything that has happened, despite all the time that has passed, despite every attempt to convince themselves otherwise, they still carry deep feelings connected to you. That realization has become a light inside them. A light that keeps returning whenever darkness tries to take over. A light that keeps appearing whenever confusion clouds their thoughts. A light that refuses to disappear. And every day that passes makes it a little brighter. So as this message comes to an end, my beloved soul, release the weight you have been carrying. Release the fear of being forgotten. Release the belief that you never mattered. Release the stories created by silence and uncertainty. Because the truth is stronger than those fears. The truth is that your presence left an unforgettable mark. The truth is that your energy continues to be felt. The truth is that the person you love spoke about you, reflected on you, remembered you, and through that process discovered something they can no longer ignore. The walls that once protected them are falling. The fears that once controlled them are weakening. The truth that once hid beneath the surface is rising. And now, at the end of this journey, one realization stands above all the others. It is the realization they can no longer escape, no longer deny, and no longer explain away. It is simple, powerful, and undeniable. No matter where life takes them, no matter how many roads they travel, no matter how much time passes between today and tomorrow, a part of their heart will always recognize you as someone who changed their world forever, someone whose presence became woven into the story of their soul, and someone whose memory continues to shine like a light they were never truly able to leave behind. This is the truth. This is the awakening. And this is where the message ends.